Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Big Apple Banter. It is February 18th, and that means we are ready for spring training, huh?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm really glad baseball's about to get
yeah.
back in full swing. But that's not the main news going on right now in New York sports. It's all about the Jets and the speculation potentially getting a new quarterback this upcoming season.
Yeah, dude. There's a lot of reports, a lot of conflicting reports going on. What the hell the Jets are gonna do with the number two pick, or even conflicting reports of what the potential stock Zack Wilson could be. There are a lot of reports saying, Scott is saying that he could be a Mahomes esque like quarterback. With the running the ball, the arm talent, the accuracy, and all that. And then there's also the scouts that say he has the potential to turn into a bust like Johnny Manziel. So, what kind of when you have a one that's literally like up here and then down here.
Yeah.
So what the hell does that mean? And you're really gonna invest the number two pick in scouts saying one thing and then other scouts saying another thing? Like, what the hell is that? The hell is
It,
that?
it's the same thing every year. Every year there's a quarterback that jumps the ranks. It's the flavor of the month. Everyone's speculating. I mean, we talked about that draft with Mitch Trubisky. He was the name coming up in during the combine and stuff like that, based on all his workouts. And then look how that's turned out so far. So it's
Bro.
every year there's a new quarterback that everyone loves, and they want to put him even over Trevor Lawrence. Like, come on, based on what? The kids at BYU. I mean, what competition he's going
Yeah.
against?
I mean,
It,
whoever the scout that, I mean, I don't know if that was an honest scout or an honest person that just came out and said that, but the fact that some person even said that one person even thinks he's better than Trevor Lawrence, I mean, that's slight reach. Before, a couple months ago, it was Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence, and now all of a sudden, Zach Wilson is just rising up the ranks. And I mean, they've had like some mini, I guess, showcases where they've been throwing. I don't know if he's thrown. I know Lawrence is thrown. I don't know if Wilson is thrown. But other than that, there's what else is there really to base off? But then again, if you want to look back, sort of an interesting stat. Look at a lot of quarterbacks that came from like no name schools or schools that don't really come away with prominent quarterbacks. Mahomes came from Texas. They don't really have a lineage. Um,
mm-hmm,
Dak Prescott. I'm not really big into the colleges, but
mm-hmm.
like Dak Prescott came from wherever he went to school. They didn't really have like a lineage of quarterbacks. Uh, I forgot the list. I really wish I had it in front of me, but a lot of the new quarterbacks, even I probably even like no, not the Marlins, more. I went to Louisville, but still, like regardless, there was that little list. I wish I had it, but it just goes to show that maybe if they do draft Wilson, maybe he's not a bust. But then again, it's just you wasting the number two pick. I don't know. Like they just drafted Sam Darnold a couple of years ago with the third overall, trading up, and now you want to invest in number two pick. It's essentially doing the same thing, going down the same route. And obviously, no matter which way Douglas goes, it's gonna be he's gonna be heavily criticized. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
and if they go right ahead and do cut ties with Darnold and decide to take a new quarterback with the second overall pick, and he does succeed, in my mind, it doesn't. That's great. People will try to say, "Oh, he got it done. Maybe he was better than Darnold," but there's no really any way to prove
Yeah,
that because
because
he'll
like
have other assets around him at that point,
so you have
and he wouldn't be
report.
damaged goods.
Yeah, I mean you have reports saying Todd McShay has been all over saying blabbing his mouth saying that Sam Darnold has the potential to be a top seven, top eight quarterback in the league. So then,
Mm-hmm.
if he has that potential, why are the Dutch trading it? Trading that pick. Or okay, if he's gonna has that potential, I can see the possible interest in teams. Then but then they're really gonna. I mean, the only way you're moving on for Sam is if you have to trade Watson. If you're trading for Watson,
Mm-hmm.
but so far Nick Casario has been adamant and not returning phone calls or shutting down teams calling for trying to trade for Watson. So if they're going to play hardball with not trading him, and if they're really going to try to repair the relationship, but they're definitely going to have to make a decision before the draft because they're not going to miss out on potentially getting the number two pick, the number three pick, or whatever packages a team's going to offer with draft picks within this year's draft. So you got to think something's going to happen before March 17th or just before the draft in April.
Yeah, definitely the Watson situation will be known before the start of the new league year, no doubt in my mind. And going forward with Darnold or a new quarterback, that could take longer. But either way, that Watson decision will need to be made because that can change your whole free agency and your
So
draft a month later.
obviously,
So
you saw the news that Carson Wentz got traded to the Indianapolis Colts
I
today. He got
did. I
traded for a
did.
third round pick and a conditional second round pick. I
Hmm.
think it has something to do with the percentage of games played, which will result in the second rounder turning into a first.
Hmm.
If that is true, it was a pretty good package that Philly received because they don't know what they're getting out of Carson Wentz and with that, yeah, it's a dead cap hit of like 30, close to 34 million, the highest dead cap hit in history of the NFL. But they don't really know what they're getting when you move on from that kind of contract. It's kind of worth it when you're getting a potential first round pick, and if it's going to be percentage of games played, uh, if he doesn't get hurt, that second will probably turn into a first. So
Hmm.
obviously it's going to be a reclamation project for Indianapolis, but it's he's reunited with Frank Reich, so it could be a win-win for both sides.
Very well could be. The only risk in my mind for the Colts is the contract. The picks, not really concerned about that because if Indianapolis, based on their roster and based on their coaching, they're probably going to be a good team anyway. So those draft picks aren't going to be worth much to begin with.
Right. You would
Um,
think the Colts would have asked for maybe like a late round pick, for taking on that contract. That's why the Lions were able to get such a hefty package for taking on the pick, taking on the contract of Goff, as well as
mhm,
sending a late pick. I'm pretty sure. So
mhm.
I'm surprised they didn't send a late pick. Philly.
Well, I think that had more to do with it because they weren't sending any quality players in return to Philly.
Yeah, I guess, but it is Wentz. I know he was a potential MVP candidate in like 2017, but now he's just like lost out there, and who knows, what he's gonna turn into. But so what do you think that's gonna mean for Sam Darnold's value? I thought that I think that could potentially, maybe affect his value in a way, maybe would decrease it. I don't know because they did get a second and third, so reports they're going to get a first. So, are they going to get a first still? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so after this. Maybe like maybe a conditional pick they could do now. Maybe
Uh,
something like that. That could be an option.
yeah, I really don't think it has any effect on Darnold at all. I mean, you think otherwise, but in my mind, you know what? Wentz already was on a second contract, getting paid big money. Darnold, not so much.
Yeah, but
Darnold's younger
so
than him.
now going into what May 3rd, the Jets have to decide if they're going to accept or reject Sam
Right.
Darnold's fifth-year option. So if they decide to accept, which I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they're going to, so if they are going to, that means they're
Mm-hmm.
committed to him. But it really doesn't sound like they're ready to hand him over that 20 because that's going to be a guaranteed 25 million. So I don't think they're ready to do that. I think they should do it, but then again, what happens if they reject it? So he just becomes a free agent after this season, and then
Right.
so then you could just roll the dice like that, just reject it and then roll the dice, and if he has a good season, he's not going to get a big guaranteed contract, but you can still give him a decent contract if he's somewhat shows you something. Then so that could also be an option. I don't see why they don't go that route either.
Yeah.
When especially, I didn't even get to that, get to this, but Mel Kiper even came out and he said that based on this year's draft class, behind Trevor Lawrence, he would have Daniel Jones ranked number 2 ahead of Zack Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones. So
Who said this?
Mel Kiper
Oh,
Jr.
okay.
So if if Daniel Jones is rated higher than Zach Wilson, he has him rated higher than Zach Wilson coming out of this group of quarterbacks. And they just want to waste the number 2 pick on a guy who's rated lower than somebody that has the skills of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones
He he
sucks.
he also said Sam Darnold would be right behind Lawrence too, probably ahead of Jones.
And that's obviously what Todd McShay agrees with too, because he says Sam Darnold still has the potential to be a top 7 quarterback in the league. He's super young, and he was only 6 months younger than Joe Burrow. So it's not like he's a foregone conclusion where he's totally he's washed up, So he still has some. And obviously, if McShay loves him, some other teams do love him, and he could be fallback options for teams like the Chicago Bears or the Panthers, maybe Denver. So I know those teams are going to be in on Watson as well as us, and it could be enticing because the Panthers could offer McCaffrey as well as 3 first-round picks. So I mean that could be enticing for them, and that's something that could, that could,
Watson, 3 for
yeah.
yeah. But then again, it's you saw the report this morning. It said Watson, might second guess because the Jets might have to
get to that.
But that's the same thing with the Panthers would be doing in that scenario. They would have nothing.
Exactly. And I don't even understand. You and I were talking about this on another show, and you and I were even saying how if Watson decides to come here, his cap hit this year right now is not that high. It's like 10 million, 11 million, something like that.
Yeah.
And so they could just go ahead and then sign free agents, or they could draft a couple wide receivers in the draft. So they could either sign them or draft them or do a combination of both. Because either way, you're gonna need weapons for this guy. I know that we have roughly around like 60, 70 million in cap space. I know they're gonna make a couple cuts to cut some salary and save on some cap. I think Crowder might be one of those guys. Maybe we bring him back, but so I know we're gonna have a lot of cap. So we're definitely gonna make some big moves in free agency regarding skills positions, and hopefully they bring in like a guy like Juju. I think I don't know why Watson would think that we would be like decimated, if he came here. I really don't believe that. I kind of feel it's like the opposite. And if anything, him coming here makes other players would want to come here. So, especially with all that cap space, regardless of his contract.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with his situation, honestly, at this point, because you haven't really heard anything much in the last week or so. It's mainly just the Texans saying we're not going to trade him. We're not even taking any phone calls. So, you know what? That situation will develop. It's probably all behind closed doors right now. But as far as Darnold's concerned, I really don't see the big deal. They're going to either decline or accept that before May 5th or whatever you said, May 3rd. I feel like it's no brainer just to pick it up. Now, I'm not sure what the rules are, but I'm not sure if you were to trade him after picking up his option. I believe the new team wouldn't get the 5th-year option. It would have to be on his rookie deal team.
Would we have a cap hit if we accept it? We might have.
I don't know that either.
We may or may not, because some cap hits have dead money and some don't. But yeah.
I don't agree with taking this quarterback. I really think it just has to do with resetting the rookie pay scale. That's really their top priority in making this decision, I feel, which is stupid in my opinion. It's just flat out stupid.
Yeah, no, like I understand, because you don't really know what you're getting from Sam. But if they can surround this kid with weapons and take a gamble on him, like you already took the third pick, you already took the third overall pick in him. So you might as well just see what this kid has got with a guy who you could trust with grabbing the ball. Like, hey, first of all, they need a tight end. Maybe they can explore a trade for Zach Ertz. I don't know if that'd be possible, or if they'd be into that. But they could use he needs some weapons, so they could do something like that. Or either way, like I said, Juju. There's Galladay out there. I know he's a little injury prone, but still, they got to make a splash in free agency, or especially in the draft. So, and if they're gonna take a quarterback, like we're saying with Zack Wilson, who is likely going to be the favorite if they take him at number 2, I don't know. I feel like just sticking with Sam makes the more logical sense, because you know what you have in Sam, and why have the risk of him going to another team, regardless of the compensation you get in return, and then him succeeding, because you could have just had that then. And but then obviously it's going to come down to new coaching staff, new regime, to see if that's the direction they want to go is with Sam. But again, if you draft Wilson at 2, then you're going to be in the same situation as you are with Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 or 4 years down the line, so then he's gonna have that 5th year option if they don't figure it out. Then you're
Exactly.
gonna have to take, same thing with Sam right now with the 25, and that's probably gonna be even higher. It's probably gonna be like 26, 27 million, something like that. But and obviously the question mark is next year. The draft class is I guess the quarterback draft class is like mediocre. It's
Yep.
not what it's like, I guess, with these
They
draft
said there's
classes.
potentially one guy that's like a clear-cut first-round pick, but other than that, there's no suitors right now.
Right, but then again, what have you and I been like saying? Like on multiple shows, I've said like Dak Prescott, 4th round pick. Russell
Right.
Wilson, 3rd round pick. Obviously, the GOAT Tom Brady was a 6th or 7th round pick. Many
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers with the 24th pick. So you don't need to
Mm-hmm.
use a top 5 pick to land this guys. And obviously, the higher they pick them, the more money they're gonna get on those options. So if that's also a strategy, if they want to go about is with salary, I'd rather take a quarterback in the 2nd round or 3rd round, and then groom him, and then I think that that's not a bad route to go either.
Also, people are so quick
Finding
to
that
say,
diamond in the rough. I think I feel like
hold
that's
on
a
a
better
second.
option.
Oh,
I don't know.
sorry,
Obviously,
sorry, incoming
because
call.
I've stressed this enough where, especially that one draft class where it was Ponder, Gabbert, Blaine Gabbert, and whatever. I don't remember his name right now. But then again, they all went like 8, 10, and 12. And then Mahomes, Allen, and Watson went 7, 10, and 12. So when you have those guys rated like that, um, just it makes no sense to me. But you know what? Hopefully Joe Douglas makes the right decision here.
Yeah, hopefully so. I really like you just named all those names from past drafts, but this is just these experts trying to flex their muscles right
And you
now.
know what? Yeah, yeah. And now we could actually. So now,
There,
then
there's
now
got to
from
be
the
more guys.
now from the 2016 draft, the number 1 and number 2 pick are now gone from their teams.
Correct.
And same with Winston and Mariota. So now
Gone.
Darnold's going to be gone. Baker Mayfield finally figured out. So like this is what
Mitch
Baker Mayfield's on his 4th coach, right?
Baker's on his third coach. He
3rd
went from Hugh
coach.
Jackson to Freddie Kitchens to now what's his name?
Yeah,
Stefanski.
Stefanski. All right. So it's the same situation as Sam. 3 coaches, 4 years. And he just had a really good year. Baker Mayfield.
He did, and see that's the evidence right there when
And,
they were about
and,
to give up on him, right?
and actually, if you want to even bring this debate even more, it's not even really a debate because you and I are on the same side here. But
Uh,
for those Jets fans that want to turn away from Sam, it's not every quarterback. Every successful quarterback has an offensive line and weapons. If
correct.
they have because the Jets have a mediocre offensive line, if they have an above average offensive line, that will just give Sam time to throw in the pocket, and it just essentially sets him up for success. The numbers prove it. When you've seen successful quarterbacks, they have fantastic offensive line.
Yeah, just look at Tom Brady's whole career. The only time he lost in those 2 Super Bowls or 3 Super Bowls really is when those opposing teams had a good defensive front 7, and they got to him and sacked him throughout the game and they lost. So there's the evidence right there. Yeah, a quarterback can't succeed without his
Look what
offensive
happened.
line.
Look what happened to Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Dude didn't have his 2 starting tackles, and he was lost.
Bingo.
He could not. He was running around with like a chicken without a head. He was making incredible throws. Don't get me wrong. And receivers couldn't come up, but still, the guy was just running back 10, 20 yards almost like every other play. And you and I were just having this. If you put Sam Darnold on the Chiefs, he probably he's not going to put up numbers like Mahomes or maybe make crazy throws like Mahomes, but he'll put up passenger number. He'll be like Alex Smith. He was in that offense. Like that's what Sam Darnold like can be. If everybody wants to think of his potential, like I think Sam Darnold's a Tannehill-esque, Alex Smith-esque kind of quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's definitely more talented than those guys. But yeah, you know what? If you're gonna at least get that floor of a player with that, you stick with Sam. I mean, That's always been my point, and like you said, we've agreed on that. We should stick with Sam than drafting a guy out of the Pac-12. It's just idiotic in my opinion, and your opinion as well. Yeah, you know what? If I were them, I'd take the second pick. I either back, or if I stay there and take the pick, I either take the wide receiver from Alabama, Smith, or I take the offensive tackle at Oregon.
Yeah, I mean,
we shore up the offensive line, get him a weapon, sign Juju. I don't really want Will Fuller. He's really
I don't want any of those guys other than Juju.
I would get Juju because he played with Sam in college. Draft that receiver out of college who's a stud. Shore up the offensive line. You got all this extra draft pick capital, and you still have a ton of free agency money. You know, they could turn this around in a hurry. I don't feel the need to go and draft another quarterback just to reset that 4-year pay scale. It's so stupid and short-sighted.
I agree, dude. And you know what? In the short term, obviously they're not looking at it like that, and you know they want to look at it long term. But you know, short term, you know, like I think I'm the same with you. I'm rolling with Sam next season, surround him with weapons. But I don't know, for them, it's just I feel like if they get a first round pick, they're gonna trade him. That's the only thing, and then. Without a doubt, they're gonna take a quarterback, and that's the unfortunate part because they're gonna be in the same situation as they are with Sam Darnold again. Just reset all over again.
It would definitely make it more enticing to trade him if they were actually able to get a first rounder, but even then, it would be a tough decision, in my opinion. But if they do go that route, you know what? You just add it to your draft stock. Now you got even more picks to shore up that team and build around whoever the quarterback is. So,
yeah, I mean they're gonna. I honestly, Rod, think more likely or not, they're gonna wind up drafting Wilson too.
I hope you're wrong. I really hope you're wrong.
I know you do, but I think
what are we not seeing? Because all these other talk, if you listen to any talk show in the New York area the last couple of weeks or so, they're all saying how we need to move over from Sam. A lot of them, they're all saying we got to drift. I just don't see why they're so quick to throw him away. I just don't get it.
I know Dave Rothenberg's like, see you later. Take it, goodbye. I'm done. I'm good with you. Even Michael K is like,
I don't get it.
Yeah, I'll move on with you. I've seen enough. And obviously, yeah, we haven't really seen, a whole lot from Sam. But you got to give this guy a chance with a stable offensive line, some weapons to throw to. And a coach who knows what the hell is he doing compared to Adam Gase. That's just those are three major components there. And if you surround him with 2 out of those 3, or like 2.5 out of those 3, because the offensive line might be a little bit hard, but if you can plug 3 out of the 5, that are like above average, that'll make up for like the other 2, because they haven't had an offensive line since Sanchez, when the offensive line was like basically almost all pro with Ferguson, Woody, Mangold.
And look how far they went with a scrub like
That's
Sanchez.
That's what I'm saying. Mark Sanchez was nowhere near as good as Sam Darnold. So if you put Sam Darnold with a good offensive line, I have no doubt this kid will make some incredible throws. I'm sticking with Sam because you know what? He's gonna go to another team and he's gonna restart him. He might restart him. He could. I really think he could, because now that we're talking about that in offensive line, it just makes sense, because Tom Brady was a freaking 6th round pick, and he would wind up becoming the greatest of all time, literally the greatest of all time. So it just goes to show that if you could just surround, obviously Bill had help. Him grooming him and being behind helped, but it's just incredible because his talent just got surpassed. And obviously Sam Darnold's talent was recognized. He did have turnover issues in college, but if you I want to stick with Sam, dude. They're gonna regret it if he goes elsewhere. I know that.
And if you just look out there, you see all the interest he has. People are calling up the Jets. I mean, the Colts are one of those teams, and now they got Wentz, so you could take them off. But you still got the Bears. Yeah, you got the Bears, Washington, potentially still Pittsburgh, because
even San Francisco. They're hesitant. Sure. They don't want to get rid of Garoppolo because They're satisfied. They're content with Garoppolo. Unless they can move him for Watson, they're satisfied. And like honestly, Garoppolo's like, in my opinion, maybe on the level of Sam Darnold, or maybe Sam Darnold could be better. Because I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is all that great.
No, not at all. I still think I would take Sam over Jimmy G in a heartbeat. Um, and then obviously I would take Sam over Mitch Trubisky any day of the week and twice on Sunday. So
fucking lame.
And you know what? They did that same thing last year. They declined the fifth-year option. They said, Mitch, go play out the fourth year. Mixed results. I mean, he got benched for Foles in like the third week.
Exactly.
And then
you don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, he got brought back in. He had mediocre results, but
Sam Darnold's not a joke. I mean, I know they've all been like, I know Chris Canty, they've all been giving heavy criticism on Sam Darnold because he only had like 6 touchdowns in X amount of games, whatever it was, and Flacco had like, I think like the same amount of touchdowns or something in like half the games, and they want to give him criticism for that, but. Then again, I think Flacco played with the lineup, like when the lineup was more complete, when the wide receivers were out there and everything. But I don't know. I know Sam, you want to get rid of that third overall pick. Now that third overall pick you invested in is now a waste. So your gamble on that is gone. So you might as well just stick with your gamble, especially with these reports that are coming out with Mel Kiper and McShay. So McShay says Darnold could be a top 7, and then other scouts, anonymous scouts, saying Zack Wilson's better than Lawrence. Yeah, okay. And then Mel Kiper says that Daniel Jones would be a better quarterback coming out of this draft compared to all the other quarterbacks, excluding Trevor Lawrence. So, no offense to Daniel Jones, he is not that good. He's not on anybody's level. He's a bottom tier quarterback. So I'm not. There's no way they should do that. It just. Dude, what the
Daniel Jones? Seriously? Come on, man.
Seriously. Dude, oh my God, dude. It's so frustrating to be a Jets fan because how many times are we going to go through this cycle?
That's why you got to laugh.
But, and like I was saying, Chris Canty, they all want to move on from Sam just because of that thing. But you know what? You already invested 3rd overall pick and you want to do this again. It just doesn't make sense. I'd rather, like I said, take a quarterback in like the late round then instead of not this round, but like not this maybe this year's draft, maybe not. Just take a quarterback and then you could have him compete with Sam. I don't see what's so wrong with it, especially if they can't get a first round pick, and obviously that's going to be enticing for them if they do get one. If they get a trade that fetches a first round pick for them.
What about them potentially? I don't know if this would work. But what if they kept Sam and then if they still decide to draft the quarterback, then they have a little bit of a competition there?
I've mentioned that so many times, and I would not be opposed to that. Because at the end of the day, if you draft a quarterback at 2, whether it's Fields or Wilson, because at the time I said it was Fields, but now, Wilson's been trending up. So you take Wilson, and then let's say you start with Sam. Sam looks good in the season. You want to stick with Sam. Then you have Wilson sitting on your bench. Now you could flip Wilson for essentially whatever you would have got, for the number 2 pick, don't you think? Because he's worth the same whether it was at the draft or not.
Right. I mean, they would have a little less leverage because they know they would have to get rid of him at that point, so they would lose all their leverage.
But for I don't know, maybe not, because a team that needs a quarterback, it's like it's a demand. It's
supply and demand.
Supply and demand.
Then again, he would be unproven. It would just be based off college, just like the Jets when they would potentially take him. Or I mean, you think about it this way: if they trade away Sam, right, and then they take the quarterback at 2, are they going to have no other quarterback presence there? They're just going to put all their eggs in Zack Wilson basket and just say, "Oh, our future's in his hands now." And if
maybe they resign Flacco. It's just to be a backup.
It doesn't make sense. This is all for the resetting the financial clock. There's nothing else to really even talk about there. That's what this all comes down to.
I don't know, dude. They just got to stick with Sam, surround him with a good offensive line, get him some weapons to throw to, and with hopefully Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur, they'll be able to set up a nice playbook, and they need to have some unique plays out there. They got to be able to fool the defense, and I think they'll be able to do that. Honestly, I don't think these guys are coming. First coming over from San Francisco, so they got a creative offense over there. They got to be creative, especially with Jimmy G as their quarterback, and hopefully they do like Sam, and they'll stick with him. And
I
again,
hope
as
so,
you and I
dude.
said, as you were saying, I wouldn't be opposed to drafting a quarterback and sticking with Sam. And I know if they do that, they're going to get heavily criticized for something like that. But I'm not going to be opposed to that. But again, I don't think that's going to happen. I think, unfortunately, they're going to wind up drafting Wilson at 2.
I hope you're wrong, dude. I really do. I
Yeah,
have
I mean,
nothing else to add on that.
I guess we'll see what happens when when it comes to at least March 17th, and then definitely when it comes draft time, because they're definitely going to wind up making a move during.
We're gonna know. We're gonna know in 2 weeks.
draft.
I think.
So, all right, man. I guess that's gonna cover for this segment on the Jets. All right.
Yeah, we'll take a quick break, towel off, and we'll come back.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks everybody for watching. Subscribe. You could catch us at Gmail, BigApple Banter 9495 at gmail.com. Email us for any comments if you want to be on the show for anything. We appreciate it. Appreciate your feedback. Thank you all.